Hey, afternoon. Another installment of my 68 Corvette engine swap. Doing a video this time on the fan shroud. After I got the engine out, as I pulled some of the other detail pieces, some of the ancillary things out, found this radiator shroud was broken. There were some other things that needed addressing as well, but I'm going to do this video on this fan shroud. Start out with this. Let me spin this around here. And what I discovered is this is a bonding joint here, and that had broken loose. Then up here, this actually had a tab on it, which you can see right there. Again, that was bonded as well at the factory. That's just completely broken off. The other thing I found was this tab right here, somewhere right about this point here. That tab was completely broken off as well. And then on this piece, at this angle here, this wasn't broken off, but it was broken through to the point where this lower portion was flapping back and forth. It was no longer rigid, and it'd be a matter of time before it just broke off. So what I've done, let me start with this one. So what I did here is I used fiberglass, matte, cloth, and obviously resin. Got this at a right angle. Fiberglass this in place, and then once this had cured, I flipped it over, did the same thing on the inside here, and that's really reinforcing it quite a bit. So it's really rigid, it's really durable now. I still need to dress this all up to where it looks cosmetically looks a lot better. On this tab that's here, again, this was broken off completely. What I had done is I had got it up on the table like this, and I had actually screwed this down to the table, so it was held in place by two screws here, one here, held in place. And then I had taken this piece of right angle, and where these bolts go in, and they go in from this direction, where these bolts go in, I had bolted this piece of right angle in place. So that made this plane all in line. And that way, when it went back into the core support, it would line up and it wouldn't be staggered or misaligned. So again, secured it to the table, bolted this in place. Again, with the matte cloth and resin, fiberglass this. And once that had cured, did the same thing as the other piece. Came inside here, matte cloth and resin again, fiberglass this in. Again, this still needs to be dressed up. To where it's feathered in or blends in and looks a little bit better. You can see I've been sanding and primering and prepping it. Once I'm all done, I'll paint this and try to improve the appearance of it so that when it goes back together, that whole engine bay will look a lot nicer. On this glue joint, what I did here is I got this lined up where it was supposed to be. And I had taken, here's a clamp here, I had taken a clamp top and bottom and held this in place so it didn't really move. Came back in, drilled these these are eighth inch holes that I drilled all the way through both pieces. And then I used these little sheet metal screws and put those in there. And again, that'll hold it in place and got it all aligned. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try this, move that. I'm going to try this JB weld and see if that will work on that bonding joint. So I'll mix that up, obviously apply it, apply it to the surface here. Once I've got it applied, line it up, put those screws in, tighten it all up. That'll hold it rigid, hold it in place, and I think that should work really well. Once that's all cured and done, I'll go back in these little holes on both sides. I'll just go in with a little bit of fiberglass resin, fill those holes, sand them, and that should clean up nicely, prime and paint it. On this spot here, if you look over here, you can see that this is a tab. This tab was part of this piece. And again, like there was a bonding joint, so it's put together there at the factory. The same thing here, but this tab is just completely broken off, and there's still little pieces of it. It has broken completely off. And so what I'm going to have to do is figure out a way to hold this in place. And I think what I'll have to do is I'll probably have to use the same thing, matte cloth and resin on both sides, and then just blend and feather it in, but that should reinforce that to where that should last as long as I own the car probably. So that's what I'm working on with that. These are the other parts of the fan shroud. Those are in good condition. Those I just need to sand and sand, paint, and primer, and those go in these little holes, these little slits you see in here. These go in there, and then they bolt in place up in here. So, and that'll finish out the fan shroud. Now, again, this is a 68, I believe 69 and newer. I believe they're metal. At some point, they might even be plastic. This one's fiberglass, so again, that's why I'm working with the fiberglass resin and cloth to do these repairs to these broken spots. What I've discovered as I worked on this thing, changing the engine out is what it is. Some of the things I'm going to change just because I chose to, but as I've disassembled the car, I found things that are worn out or they're broken or need to be replaced for whatever the reason may be. I mentioned in one of the earlier videos, back there is the air compressor for the compressor for the AC. I'm going to convert it over to the R134, and that's the old compressor. So I've been taking all the components out of the old system to put the new components in. And one of the things I'm working on is the POA valve, and that's affixed in there. And there's a coupling, and it goes from an aluminum tube, goes into the inside the car, and it's the cooling component in there. And I cannot get that loose or off of that aluminum tube. I've tried everything, and I'm worried I'm going to break or damage or break it. I found a link where a guy had used a couple of crow's feet. It's just hard to get at. It's almost underneath the fender. He said he'd used a couple of crow's feet to get at it, where you get some leverage on it, and he also had applied some heat. So I've ordered some crow's feet. I think the two sizes I need are a 1 3/8 and 1 1/16. And then I've been putting penetrating oil for a few days on it. So when the crow's feet come in, we'll see if that gives me better access, better leverage on it to where I can break that loose and change those components. But it's been a lot of fun. I mean, obviously there's costs associated with the things that I'm doing, that I'm replacing, or that need to be replaced. I expected that. It's a 50-year-old car, so expect that. So I got no heartache over that. Been having fun with it. Been enjoying it. Enjoying putting some of these videos together. Hopefully you enjoy it as well, or at least find some value in something you may be working on. So, but I think thank you for watching the video, and wait for the next one.